Hello everybody, it is Jeanette Vilda. This is my design team project for Luise Heinzl using her Urban Mirror kit. So I've been wanting to do another leather-bound journal for quite some time, and when I started looking at the images and the papers in this, I started thinking about the mirror aspect of and then started thinking like yin and yang, man and woman, black and white, and leather and lace. And so that's kind of where I went with this. So there's a lot of kind of a harshness to it, and then the softness. And that's kind of the direction I took with this. This is just a big chunk of leather, nothing special. And I did a pamphlet stitch, and then that's covered with this little doily of sorts. And they're just wrapped around with a sari ribbon. And so one of the things is I wanted to allow myself to kind of be more random, I guess. I have a tendency to be perhaps a little too careful. And I also, this thing turned out chunky, and I actually love it. I don't usually do chunky, but I really enjoyed this. So I'm not entirely certain I've still figured out exactly working with leather, but I think it worked out. I did figure out how to make it square, so I'm pretty proud of that. And I love looking at background papers and trying to find ways of making things hidden. So that's the background paper if you're just looking at it. And then I just love it that I can make a little hidden pocket. So when you're looking at your design papers, look for little pieces like that so you can make a nice little hidden pocket. I love doing that. And these papers really lend themselves to that. So in here is her Urban Mirror kit. I used a bunch of paper. This is from a book from 1850 something. Old German book. So as you can see, there's a lot of this lace, but with the roughness, some of this brown stuff. I know it has a name, whatever. And I really try. I have not done a lot of collaging, and so I really wanted to try my hand at it. So that's not really collaging; it's just strip of paper down. But I tried to kind of branch out and really kind of go against my comfort zones, if you will. And I had a blast with this. In the kit, she has this scoochie here, wonderful background that you can use, and I've used that on all of the design papers. I used the background pages. I think there's 2 different ones that are very similar. The other thing is these pages are actually all of these plain pages that you see like this with the tan are end papers in books. So when I've taken pages out of a book, you have end papers that are usually blank. This one had a nice little stamp on it. And so all these blank pages are end papers from books. And then what I wanted was, I loved the look of this, like a stone wall, and kind of mixed with the kind of sort of almost like a drippy, maybe Salvador Dali, but not melty, more like drippy feel of some of the images. And so I got out my sprays and had a blast playing with this, sort of the same colors, kind of close, I guess. And a lot of it, what I did was I would put down some of the base colors, and then I used white. And sorry, my hands are just absolutely awful. I get so much ink on them that my skin gets really dry, and then I've been having peely fingers. But so once I put the colors down, then used a white spray. I have both, one from Fabrica de Courroux and the Tim Holtz Picket Fence. Both of them worked fine. And then I would just spray that over until it would kind of get wet, and then it would sort of spread. And gave me something of that feel. And so some of it is a little drippy as well. And if the background, you might hear our cats are feeling very needy today. I've been hearing a lot of crying and scratching. So here you can see I tried to get this kind of drippy look. To me, it has that same feel of an old stone wall. Yeah, poor thing. She's needy. And then there's also this ledger paper, which comes from the 1920s. Other than that, it's pretty much this book. Like I said, all of these that are blank are the end papers from books, and then pages that I just... And if you want to know any of the colors, most of them are Fabrica de Caro, and it's, oh boy, if it's brown and Fabrica de Caro sells it, it's on these pages. But also there is walnut stain, the oxide spray, and like I said, picket fence, and the white that also is from Fabrica de Caro. Like I said, I liked the idea of the leather and lace, rock, soft. So for instance, rock with the lace. I did a lot of just ripping images out of the design papers and used that in a lot of the elements. And then also had a book from 1920, in the 20s, on stamps. It's one of those books here in Germany where, you know, you can go through and look at the different stamps and where they're from, their dates, all that. But it's a pretty old book, so there's some chunks from that. And in the kit, she has wonderful corner pieces. There are banners, so much ephemera. And I paired it with some tracing paper. So this is tracing paper. And that gives me 2 pockets. And that's just a little bit of walnut stain on the edges. And I did quite a bit of stenciling. I love doing stenciling. That's just a little card. And then there's also some vellum butterfly stickers from my stash. And I couldn't tell you for the life of me where those came from. Most of my stickers come from, there's a sort of like a drugstore, but without the drugs part of it. Department store, but without clothes. I don't know. I can't think of the equivalent in the U.S. at the moment, but anyways, I get almost all of my stickers from there. And I don't use a lot of lace on the edges of my books, but I had been wanting to, like I said, the feminine and the masculine with the lace, and then also did some stitching, but one, I'm bad at it, so it's going to look that way anyways, but then I kind of embraced it and made it kind of messy. So it's, again, that kind of calm sort of together with the messy, the mirror. And here's another one of those great drippy pages. And I think they look really great with this stone image. And here you can really see how wonderful this gorgeous paper is. Now the interesting thing I will point out is that when I print this on one type of paper, so that I have a paper that I typically use for ephemera, so it's I believe it's 220 weight, and then I have paper that I use for the pages, I have paper that I use for collaging because it's a lot thinner. Each of those for some reason was giving me different colors, so that's why here you can almost see it, but it's slightly different. There's a little bit of a yellow to him, and so I was getting a few interesting colors. So that's just, I actually love that because some of them were like really kind of pink and some of them were very orange, and I liked, but I don't know why. I couldn't for the life of me tell you. I guess it's never happened on any of my other printings. For some reason, I just kept getting different colors and I loved it. So Not complaining, not complaining. Drippy page. I did a lot of using the tracing paper and just glued it down to the page, and that allows you to write on that. So it's almost like using gesso without the gesso. So you get that same kind of creaminess and you can write on it, but without the paint. And then here's one of the banners from the kit. I made a few pockets with lace. And unfortunately, this one didn't go down very well. I'm not sure what, but it just would not hold anything inside of it. So I used one of these tags I just anchored it here at the bottom, and that helps to hold things into the pocket. So the other ones, I did make them slightly different, but I'm not sure why that didn't. It was really stretchy, and the lace really isn't stretchy, so I'm not sure. But by adding a little piece at the bottom, you can anchor it, and it pulls it a little taut, and then you get the pocket. And this is just an envelope with some stenciling and a little bit of the papers. And there's some, this particular one is Tim Holtz washi tape. So there is some washi tape as well. This one goes book end pages. So here's another pocket. This one I use the tracing paper underneath, and that gives it a little more stability. Plus I really like the look. And that's just this is actually a card, I believe, stamps. This was in the stamps, and that's why. So this is covering up the name of the company. And then I took one of the end paper, or the backing papers, to cover up that side. So don't throw away those cards, because this little grid was on the card. So I thought that was just perfect. And this is one of the book end pages. And there are these wonderful journal cards in the kit. And I turned this one into a pocket for another little card, some stenciling. And this is actually it's kind of like a jeans material. I'm not sure what it is, but a little doily, just cut in half. There's also a number of pockets in the kit. I love this one with the slate roof. This kind of roofs what we have here. I also used a lot of some little metal filigrees throughout. And again, with the tracing paper, you have a place to write. And then here's another journaling card with some stitching. The wonderful thing about my new sewing machine is I can just stick it in there, and it actually does that itself. This is an old book. Don't remember the date on this one, but early 1900s again, or somewhere around there. 1930 maybe? I don't know. But it's all churches from across, I believe, just Germany, but it might be farther. That might be later. I don't know. Too many old books. I thought it worked perfect with this kit. Now here's another where you see this is the page. And what I loved about this was look for these things. Here it has this wonderful little curve too. Let me put in my little tack that I made. It nicely just surrounds that butterfly. Makes it almost look like it was meant to be there. Just some old vintage lace. And again, some really lousy stitching. I blame myself, but that's good. A little bit more. Kind of enjoyed being messy with this. It was a blast. I love how it turned out. And like I said, some of these I just didn't do anything to because they were just way too pretty. But I did use the elements in other pieces. So, drippy pages. Gorgeous, gorgeous, gorgeous. More churches. I also used, this is, I believe, paper that I got in a package. So just used it so that you have, again, place to write, because I do have quite a few book pages throughout. Oops. And this is a nice little piece from the ephemera. Turn that into a little pocket for another envelope, and this time I stitched on the flap. And some more stenciling. This is actually one of the journal cards from the kit. And this was, I made a pocket somewhere, and when I cut it, you know, the pocket out, it was curved. And I thought, that just went perfectly, so don't get rid of those offcuts. And here again is another look at the image, and another little thing to, a little tag with some stenciling. And he just slides right in. Another lace pocket with some tracing paper. And this is actually a pocket as well. Yeah, I can get that back in there now. This is some pretty handmade lace. So this was, I believe it's crocheted, not tatted. Paper jammies. Another one of the journaling cards, a little bit of lace in the back, and made into a pocket for one of the tags in the kit. And then here is a library card. Just did some stenciling on it and put some backing paper on because it was pretty thin. The paper that I had was kind of thin. So just add a little paper to give it some backing. And then here's one of the banners, and then a banner made out of that other paper. And that makes a nice tuck spot for another of the journaling cards. And this was hard for me. I have a hard enough time when I let things, you know, kind of drip off the sides and top and whatnot. I almost have to have them uniform. And so I did this very specifically to kind of allow myself to say it's okay for things to not be perfect, and that they can actually turn out really neat. So I made this specifically in the corner, and not symmetrical, because my first instinct was make it perfectly symmetrical, and I love it. So I'm very happy with that. Step out of your comfort zone, right? And this one of the tags from the kit. And then on this side, one of the corner pieces again, made into a little tuck spot for another tag. One of the journaling cards again, it's actually another pocket, so something else can go in there. And again, tracing paper, so you have a place to write. There's also these wonderful circles. I've used them in different ways throughout here, but this one's kind of almost like a little tab to turn the page. Another of the little tucks, and the journaling card. And I just put some backing, just some scrapbook paper on the back to give a place to write, but also give it a little more stability. Again, great picture from their card. This glassine bag with one of the, like I said, all of the collaging is just from the design papers. Just pulled out elements from the design paper and just little bits from my stash. And then card in there, some butterfly stickers. And again, a little bit of that tracing paper to write. And I love this one. I think this is my favorite one. I have no idea what building that is, but I love it. And that symmetrical look with the mirroring is just gorgeous. And again, another little tag with some stenciling, and it just works perfectly to make a nice little slide for your tag. And you could use this as a belly band, but I'd use it for a tuck spot. And in there we have a little tag. And this is actually sort of a washi tape sticker kind of thing, but it's paper, or washi tape is paper, but it's not flimsy. It's almost like a die cut. And here we got another tag. Again, using the design paper. And see, this one printed purple. And on my screen, it looks orange. I don't know what my printer was doing that day. One of the inks did end up needing to be changed, but I did get a lot of different colors, and I loved it. So, wasn't bothering me. And I just love that look. Uh-oh. Oh, there's a little glob of glue. I end up with glue all over my fingers also. It's probably why my skin is not happy with me. And here we have another of the corner pieces for one of the great, I love this journaling tag. This would go great also in maybe like a Halloween. It's a nice little tuck. And here is another one of the little cards with some stitching and some more just scrapbook paper on the back to give it stability. And then another of the pockets. This is just some tissue paper. I believe this is Tim Holtz tissue paper. And then one of the journaling cards. More drippy drippy. Really cool trim. Forget where I get that. Another little pocket, and then another little tag and journaling card. And here, another pocket, one of the tags from the kit. And again, this is a pocket. But so this is much like the one from below. It has also had the shape on the bottom, and I cut that part off here, and then that's just stitching from my awesome sewing machine. And then this one is actually the tissue paper. I did this one first, or actually did both together, but I have to say I prefer the tracing paper. It can make the paper really stiff. So you might, once you kind of glue it down, maybe put it in a press or under some books to ensure that it dries nice and flat. This is perfectly fine. It works also like the gesso, where you can then write over it and have a nice spot, but it's a lot rougher. So you might have difficulty if you're using, depending on what type of pen you might be using to write on that. So yeah, I prefer the tracing paper. And again, it's just a little bit of, I used just a glue stick, glued it down. This is another end paper from a book. Drippy, drippy. More the ledger paper. And take these both out. And there's that image. I just love that. I've gone to Venice 3 times now. 3? 2, yeah, 3. And I just love anything that makes me think of Venice. What a wonderful, wonderful town. Just gorgeous. And here in the kit, she has this great, I don't know, is that a saying, I guess, a quote? Once a year, go someplace you've never been before, Dalai Lama. And this is a computer programming card into the computer. And then all collaged up with that little saying from the Dalai Lama. And I thought it went perfect on my Venice page because this was my go someplace you've never been before place. Of course, now I've been there several times. And then this is, actually, I don't have a pencil next to me, but you could use this someplace else. I just put it here as a spot that was open. I made this nice and stretchy so a pen or a pencil can fit in here, or a couple, so that you can keep your pen with your journal. Oops. Hello. It's just an old pocket or envelope. A little bit of image from one of the cards. I think that one turned out really pretty. Like I said, adding that white there at the end and really saturating it. Just it tones down the colors so that you have a place where you can write and see what you're doing. But it also, that drippy, I think, just really went perfect with her wonderful backing paper. And that's the end. So, here's my leather. Hope you like that. I cannot tell you how much I enjoyed making this book. I had really thought I was going to go in one direction with this, and it just came together. Wonderful, wonderful kit. Do take a look. Sorry this ended up a little bit longer than usual. But, and again, if you want to know the colors that I used on the sprays, just let me know. There were a lot. Like I said, just assume if it's brown and it's Fabrica de Curo, that's what I used. Otherwise, just please like and subscribe. I hope you have a great day, and I will see you later. Bye-bye.